The rain lashed against the windows of our Portland home, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For 17 years, this house had been our sanctuary, the place where Mallory and I built a life, raised our 2 kids, and weathered every storm, or so I thought. I'm Quentin, 46, an IT specialist. I spend my days wrangling code and keeping networks secure, a far cry from the emotional chaos that was about to engulf my life. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Mallory, a vibrant and outgoing woman who managed a local art gallery, began spending more time at work. Late nights, weekend events, important meetings that excuses piled up like unread emails. I chalked it up to the busy season, the demands of her job. After all, she had always been dedicated, ambitious, and passionate about her work. I admired that about her, but then came the phone calls. Whispered conversations in the next room, a quick hang-up when I entered, a new passcode on her phone that she guarded like a state secret. I tried to ignore it, to trust her, to believe that my insecurities were just that, my insecurities. But the unease gnawed at me, a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. One evening, Mallory said she had to attend a gallery opening across town. "It's a big one, Quentin," she said, her eyes flitting nervously. "Important clients, potential investors." "I need to be there, okay," I said, trying to sound supportive. "Have a good time. I'll hold down the fort here." She kissed me quickly on the cheek, grabbed her purse, and hurried out the door. As I watched her drive away, a seed of doubt sprouted in my mind. It was a Saturday night and I was alone. Our kids, Maya and Ethan, were at a sleepover, leaving the house eerily quiet. I tried to distract myself, watching a movie, reading a book, but the nagging feeling wouldn't go away. Around 10 p.m., I decided to drive past the gallery just to ease my mind. I told myself it was a harmless act, a way to show my support. But deep down, I knew I was looking for something I didn't want to find. The gallery was dimly lit, the windows dark. I parked across the street and watched. Minutes ticked by, then an hour. No sign of Mallory. Maybe I had the wrong night, the wrong gallery. Maybe I was just being paranoid. As I was about to leave, a car pulled up to the curb. A sleek black sedan. The driver got out and my heart stopped. It was Mallory. And then he emerged from the passenger side, a man, tall, handsome, impeccably dressed. He put his arm around her and she leaned into him, laughing. They kissed. A long, lingering kiss that shattered my world into a million pieces. I sat there, frozen, unable to breathe, unable to move. The scene unfolded before me like a nightmare. They walked to the back of the gallery, disappearing into the shadows. I wanted to scream, to confront them, to tear them apart, but I couldn't. I was paralyzed by shock, by disbelief, by the crushing weight of betrayal. I drove home in a daze, the rain blurring my vision. I stumbled into the house, collapsing onto the couch. The reality of what I had just witnessed washed over me, a tsunami of pain and anger. My wife, the woman I loved, the mother of my children, was cheating on me, with another man, right in front of my eyes. I spent the rest of the night in a stupor, replaying the scene in my head, trying to make sense of it, trying to understand how this could have happened. I thought of all the years we had spent together, the promises we had made, the life we had built. It all seemed like a lie now, a facade masking a hidden truth. When Mallory finally came home around 2 a.m., she found me sitting in the dark, staring blankly at the wall. "Quentin, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice laced with false concern. I didn't answer. I couldn't, the words caught in my throat, choked by emotion. "Quentin, you're scaring me," she said, approaching me cautiously. "What happened?" I finally found my voice, a hoarse whisper. "I saw you, Mallory," I said, my eyes burning with anger and pain. "I saw you with him, at the gallery." Her face paled, her eyes widening in panic. "Quentin," she stammered, searching for an explanation. "It's not what you think." "Oh, really? Then what is it, Mallory? Tell me. Tell me what I saw wasn't real." She started to cry, the tears streaming down her face. "It just happened," she sobbed. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen." "A mistake," I repeated, my voice rising. "You kissed him, Mallory. You held him. You went inside the gallery with him. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." I know," she cried. "I'm so sorry. Please, Quentin, forgive me. It won't happen again. I promise. Forgive her." How could I forgive her? She had betrayed my trust, shattered my heart, and destroyed our marriage. The pain was unbearable, a gaping wound that wouldn't heal. "Who is he, Mallory?" I asked, my voice trembling. Who is this man? She hesitated, then whispered, his name is Alaric. He's a client at the gallery. Alaric. The name tasted like poison on my tongue. How long has this been going on? A few weeks, she admitted, her eyes downcast. It started with harmless flirting, then it just escalated. A few weeks. A few weeks of lies, deception, and betrayal. A few weeks of me being a fool, oblivious to the truth. I want you to leave, Mallory, I said, my voice cold and firm. I want you out of this house. Quentin, please, she begged, clutching my arm. Don't do this. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, Mallory, I said, shaking her off. You broke it, you destroyed it, and I can't forgive you. She left that night, taking a suitcase full of clothes and a lifetime of memories. As I watched her drive away, I felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, sadness, relief. It was over. The marriage, the family, the life I had known was gone. The next few weeks were a blur. I told the kids as gently as I could that their mother and I were separating. They were devastated, confused, and angry. I tried to comfort them, to reassure them that it wasn't their fault, but the pain in their eyes was a constant reminder of the damage Mallory had caused. I hired a lawyer, and the divorce proceedings began. Mallory fought me on everything: the house, the assets, the custody of the kids. She claimed I was being unreasonable, vindictive, and unfair. But I was determined to protect myself and my children from her selfishness and lies. During the divorce, I learned more about Alaric. He was a wealthy businessman, a patron of the arts, and a notorious womanizer. He had a reputation for seducing married women, and Mallory had fallen right into his trap. It made my blood boil to think of her with him, of the way he had manipulated her, of the way she had betrayed me. As the divorce dragged on, I started to think about revenge. I wanted to make them pay for what they had done, to inflict the same pain and suffering they had inflicted on me. I considered confronting Alaric, exposing their affair, ruining his reputation. But I knew that wouldn't bring me any satisfaction. It would only make things worse for the kids. Then, a friend of mine, Brinjar, who worked as a private investigator, offered to help. I can dig up some dirt on Alaric, he said. Find out what he's really up to. You might be surprised what you discover. I hesitated. I didn't want to sink to their level, to engage in dirty tactics. But the desire for revenge was too strong to resist. Okay, I said. Do it. Brinjar went to work, and within a few days he had uncovered a treasure trove of information about Alaric. It turned out that Alaric's business dealings were far from legitimate. He was involved in money laundering, tax evasion, and fraud. He was a criminal, hiding behind a facade of wealth and respectability. I took the information to the authorities, and they launched an investigation. Within weeks, Alaric was arrested and charged with multiple felonies. His reputation was ruined, his business empire crumbled, and he faced the prospect of spending years in prison. When Mallory learned about Alaric's arrest, she was devastated. She realized that she had been used, manipulated, and betrayed by a man who cared only about himself. She tried to apologize to me, to beg for my forgiveness, but it was too late. The divorce was finalized, and Mallory was left with nothing. She had lost her husband, her family, her reputation, and her lover. She had made her choices, and she had to live with the consequences. As for me, I was finally free, free from the lies, the deception, and the pain. It wasn't the ending I had wanted, but it was the ending I needed. I had survived the betrayal, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I focused on my kids, my work, and my own healing. I started to rebuild my life piece by piece, knowing that I deserved better, that I was worthy of love and happiness. One evening, a few months after the divorce, I received a phone call from Mallory. Her voice was weak, trembling. "Quentin," she said, "I need your help." I hesitated. I didn't want to talk to her, to reopen old wounds, but something in her voice made me listen. "What is it, Mallory?" I asked, my voice cold. "I'm sick, Quentin," she said. "Really sick. The doctors say it's cancer." Cancer? The word hung in the air, heavy and ominous. I was stunned, speechless. Despite everything, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. "What kind of cancer?" I asked, finally finding my voice. "Ovarian cancer," she said. "Stage 4, they say I don't have much time." I didn't know what to say. I thought of our kids, of how they would react to this news. I knew that despite her mistakes, they still loved their mother. "I'll tell the kids," I said after a long silence. "I'll bring them to see you." I visited Mallory in the hospital, accompanied by Maya and Ethan. She was pale, weak, and frail. The cancer had ravaged her body, leaving her a shadow of her former self. The kids were heartbroken. They hugged her, cried with her, and told her how much they loved her. Mallory apologized to them for her mistakes, for the pain she had caused. She begged for their forgiveness, and they gave it to her, freely and unconditionally. I watched them, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Sadness, pity, and a grudging respect for Mallory's courage in facing her own mortality. Over the next few weeks, I took the kids to visit Mallory regularly. We spent time with her, talking, laughing, and reminiscing about the good times. We tried to make the most of the time we had left, knowing that it was limited. Mallory passed away peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by her loved ones. Her death was a tragedy, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of forgiveness. I organized her funeral, and we all mourned her loss. Despite everything, she was still the mother of my children and a part of our lives. I realized that holding onto anger and resentment would only hurt me and the kids. It was time to let go, to forgive, and to move on. Life is full of surprises, both good and bad. Betrayal can be devastating, but it can also be an opportunity for growth and resilience. Forgiveness is not always easy, but it is always necessary. And love, in its many forms, can be the most powerful force of all. As I stood by Mallory's grave, I made a promise to myself and to my children. I would live a life of honesty, integrity, and compassion. I would cherish the memories we had shared, and I would never forget the lessons I had learned. I would move forward with hope and optimism, knowing that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found. And so my story ends, not with revenge or bitterness, but with forgiveness and acceptance. It is a story of betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, but also a story of resilience, healing, and the enduring power of love. To you, the reader, remember that life is precious and relationships are fragile. Treasure those you love, be honest and true, and never take anything for granted. Forgive those who wrong you, learn from your mistakes, and always strive to be a better version of yourself. And never ever underestimate the strength of the human spirit to overcome even the most devastating of challenges. Because in the end, it is not what happens to us that defines us, but how we choose to respond.